Okay, just as usual, we use the past examination paper questions. We also use the previous year's assignments. We use the previous year's tests, quizzes, as well as the tutorial sheets, the question banks from the previous years, basically to help us, understand the concepts. So we, as usual, use, these questions to serve as a guide, to us as we are going through these courses. And so the course in question is macroeconomics. And the last time we started looking at this set of questions. So I used a set of some questions last time just to help us, define macroeconomics. At the same time, we also we started looking at the key macroeconomic indicators. We guided that there are four key macroeconomic concerns. Just a quick recap. We said that the one of the key the first macroeconomic concern we have is economic growth, and we said it's a focus of macroeconomics to ensure that our economy is growing, and that is a macroeconomic concern. And then the second one we said is unemployment. And so we said economists are concerned about ensuring that, there is no unemployment, or there is a high level of employment in the country. And that's the focus of the macro economists. They also want to make sure that there is something called price stability. Yeah, they want to make sure that the prices are not just, persistently rising all the time. Of course, it is very important that the prices are stable, easy for planning, for the future, and easy also for budgeting. So macroeconomics making sure focuses on making sure that, the general price level of the goods and services is actually stable. And we say the last concern is the balance of payments, making sure that there is a proper balance between how much we import and how much we export. That's just a quick recap. And we zeroed in and started looking at these concerns one by one. So we are looking at macroeconomic economic growth, basically. That's what we are looking at. And so we said there are so many measures of economic growth, and we started looking at the gross domestic product, GDP, as the first measure. Yeah, before I proceed, just confirm you can see the screen and you can also hear me clearly. Can you see the screen? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we're able to see the screen and we're able to hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we started looking at the gross domestic product as the first indicator of macroeconomic growth. And we said the following. We said that the gross domestic product, GDP, is basically the total market value, right? The total market value of the goods and the services produced within the country boundary. And this is regardless of who owns the factors of production. It is regardless of who has produced, right? So we say that as long as, the production has taken place within the country boundary, we don't, care about who owns the factor of production or who has produced. Is it a foreigner or, a local? Is it a national or what? So what we focus on here, we just want to make sure that the production has been produced within our country boundaries. In our case, the production has taken place within Zambia. This could be a production of a good or a service. The key message is that the production has taken place within the country boundary, and that is called the gross domestic product. So at macro level, we make sure that we consolidate all the value, the value of the services that we have. We consolidate the value of all the investments, We consolidate the value of, the goods that have been produced, including the levels of inventory and all that we put together, and we produce the gross domestic product. And said the following, that there are different measures of gross domestic product that we have. I'll just go over them quickly. We said there is what you call, the income approach, where you consolidate all the income that has been raised by the factors of production. Then we also say there is something called the expenditure approach, where we put together all the expenditure that has been incurred. It could be expenditure from consumption, it could be expenditure from investments, it could be expenditure for the government, and it could be the difference between what we export as well as what we import. So when you put all those together, you produce the GDP, and that is called what is it called? We said it is called the expenditure approach to income measurement. So we promised the class that we'll do zero in and look at these in details. Okay. And we also said the last one is called value added, where you just focus at the value that has been added at each stage of production. As for today, okay, now let's look at let's start from question number 12. Actually, we'll start from question number 12. And I am reading the question in your hearing. Before I read, may I just have a confirmation one more time you can hear me clear? And you can also see the screen.
Yes, we can.
We're good? Thank you. So question number 12 is reading, how does gross domestic product, GDP, differ from the gross national product, GNP? Now you need to pay attention to this, because this is the foundation. What we are doing, we are laying the foundation. These principles, you need to pay attention to them, because they are the ones that we use even when we start making calculations. So please pay attention to that. What is the difference between the gross domestic product, GDP, and the gross national product, GNP? These are the two, right? They are all, indicators of macroeconomic growth. Yeah, but how different are they from each other? That's the question. First of all, let's start from GDP before you talk about the differences, okay? I will ask you to bring the differences. We have said that, number one, the gross domestic product here, we're just measuring in monetary terms, of course, the final market value of all the product, that is all the goods, as well as services, all right, that have been produced within our country boundary. Keyword is within our country boundaries, regardless of who owns the factors of production. That is GDP. When we come to GNP, now, this is where we pay attention. This one is the total market value. Let's write down this one. Please, the GNP is the total market value, right? The total market value of what? Of goods as well as services, right? Produced by our nationals, or by our citizens, right? This is regardless of where the production has taken place, regardless of the location of production, regardless of the location of production. This is regardless of the country, in which the production has taken place. I'll go over this. Gross national product, GNP, just, refers to the total market value, of the goods as well as the services that have been produced by our citizens. This is regardless of the location or the country in which this production has taken place, right? We don't care about the location. We don't care about the country in which the production has taken place. But our focus here is about who has produced or who owns the factor of production. That's the focus. And so here in GNP, we focus on the factors of production or the production that is produced by the factors of production owned by our people, our own citizens, our nationals. So basically, that is what GNP is all about. So GNP doesn't care about the location. So it's about what have Zambians, in our case, right? What have Zambians produced in terms of the services? How much level of production has taken place in terms of services? All the services, you can put whatever services, put all the services and express their value in monetary terms. We measure that, we capture that, and we look at all the investments or all the goods that have been produced by our own people, whether the production has taken place within Zambia or it has taken place in China, or in other countries, somewhere outside the country, abroad. Yeah. As long as I'm placing an emphasis, the persons owning the factors of production are our people. That is captured by the gross national product. That's GNP. Okay. What do you think is the main difference now between the GDP and GNP? GDP and GNP. What? GNP, yes. What is the difference between GDP and GNP? Any question? Someone to just tell us? What's the difference? What have you heard that is the difference? Yeah, you can just turn on your mic, and just pass your comment. What do you think is the difference? Or what have you heard that is the difference? Hello, are we still connected? There is silence in this land. Are we together? Are the people following?
Sir, is it okay if you can repeat on the gross domestic product? I've understood on the national gross national product, but not on the GDP.
Okay, thank you. So we said that GDP is, the total market value of goods and services produced within our country boundaries, right? Regardless of who owns the factors of production. The key message is that where has production taken place? The production has taken place within Zambia. Who has produced? Is it the Chinese? It doesn't matter. Is it the Rwandanese? It doesn't matter. Is it our own people, Zambians? That doesn't matter. The key message is that production has taken place within our country boundaries. That is GDP. So you can now proceed. That was a question from Elizabeth. Does that help?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You are welcome. Do I have any other question from anyone else? Comment? Any other question? Comment? Concern? Okay. So now, the main difference between these, number one, is about, it is in terms of location. Let's start just to talk about the differences. GDP and GNP, right? The location, this one is within the country, all right? Within the country. So production has taken place within the country, regardless of who owns the factors of production. You get what I mean, eh? Then This one, you know, it is both within and outside. You get it, right? So for this one, it is capturing both local as well as international levels of production. Yeah. So because this one, we don't, we just look at what our people have produced, whether they have produced within the country or outside the country. Okay. That's GNP. Then GDP, we just look at what has been produced within our country, whether it has been produced by our people or not our people. That doesn't matter to us. That's GDP. Okay. Then the other one is that if you look at GDP, GDP does not include, this one, it does not include imports. There are no imports here. Okay, we don't put imports in GDP, whereas the GNP, it does include that. It does include the imports as well, because we are capturing even what has been, put from outside, and all that is put together. So these are some of the main differences between the GDP as well as GNP. So mainly GNP, is by our people. Then the GDP is within our country boundary, regardless of whether it's our people or not our people. Okay. I will now want to speak to question number 15, differentiating between real GDP as well as nominal GDP. Now listen carefully. Nominal GDP, this one, it includes inflation, right? It includes effects of inflation in the computation, right? So actually, this one is measured at current, prices. Current prices that are not even net of inflation. Different from real GDP. Real GDP is measured by what? By base year prices, right? You see this better when you start calculations. So with real GDP, you use base year prices, the year of reference, the previous year. And then this one, it doesn't include, inflation. It excludes, the effects of inflation. That's what happens. I know you are not understanding this. Let me repeat and speak about this in this way. Okay. So that you can just understand. Look at this. If I had let's say we have the goods, what are we producing? Let's just say two goods, let's say bananas, maybe mangoes, right? Mangoes. This is a quantity, this side, right? You produce 100 bananas. You produce maybe 200 mangoes. These are 2 years. In year one, let's say this is 2024, and this is 2025. Now follow nicely. In 2024, one banana, we produce 100 bananas, but one banana, say, was 5 kwacha, right? And also mangoes, let's say one was 2 kwacha. Last 2024. When you go in 2020, when you go in 2025, you find that the price of bananas, they have actually gone to what? I've gone to, let's say maybe 7 kwacha one and the 5 kwacha for mangoes. Now, have you seen what has happened? I want you to understand this properly. Can you see the screen? Are you able to see the screen, yeah? And you can hear me. I've just used the example of the goods, right? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Now look at this. The level of production for bananas is just 100. It has remained fixed in 2024 as well as 2025. But what has changed are the prices. But look at the way how GDP is calculated. GDP will just be calculated by multiplying quantity times what? Times the price. The summation of this, right? GDP is basically the summation of the quantity times the price. So in the cases of 2024, if you want GDP in 2024, what are you going to do? You will use the quantity for 2024 times the price 2024, which will be 100 times 5, right? That's the price for 2024 for bananas, plus as well as the production for mangoes, which is 200 measured at 2.1. Okay, this will be 500 plus the 400. This gives us 900 as GDP. You're following, right? Like this is going to be your GDP in 2024. Basically, price times quantity. Now look at this. Look at this. In 2024, our GDP was what? Was 900. Has production changed? No. Let's look at GDP now in 2025 using 2025 prices. Look at what will happen. If you use 2025 prices, it will be 100 times the 7. That will be 700 plus, 200 times the 5. So this will be what? This will be 1,700, correct? Isn't it? This will be 1,700, right? Like GDP in 2025. Am I speaking too fast? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we're able to hear you.
Okay. So now, if you look at these two values of GDP for 2025 and for 2024, you may be forced to think that production has increased in 2025, isn't it? Because GDP is showing that it has grown. It's 1,700, whereas last year it was just 900. You get what I mean? This is what you can think if you look at it on nominal level, yeah? But in the practical sense, the production has remained the same. We are still producing the same number, amount of bags. What has just changed are the prices. You understand? Now, the changing of the prices could be influenced maybe by inflation, Inflation is basically the overall increase in the general price level. So instead of jubilating and clapping, say, oh, the production has grown and what? Our focus should be on the quantities. Have the quantities really changed? All right? Has the real production really changed? Or it is just the general price that has been pushed maybe by inflation? So this is what we are talking about. Now, when we speak to nominal GDP is the same one we have just calculated, which does not account for inflation. You understand, right? But when you talk about real GDP, as we are going to talk about it, obviously, in the next class again, real GDP accounts for inflation. It nets off this inflation. What it does is that it will use, instead of using the current year prices, the 2025 prices, it will use the previous years or the base year prices so that you can really see the real picture. This conversation will be getting detailed as we move on, yeah? We are still a bit on surface, but we are getting deeper every day as we keep on moving. So it's very important that you never miss class, never miss such classes, because it can be very difficult to just come in the middle and connect. Please ensure that you don't miss these classes. Yeah, that's that.